Haven't figured it out yet. I think I'm going to try and figure it out in the next day or so. We've gone through so many different variations as to what we were going to be. The kids, of course, have a million different ideas for us. I think JCVC is going as Slimer. We have like 15 different outfits for him because we can't hold back on buying him cute little outfits to try for a day.
Because
So I don't know. Maybe we'll be Ghostbusters. I haven't quite figured it out. Amy, have we figured it out? No, we haven't figured it out yet. So we got a few days.
You got a few days. And speaking of things, we are live here on the Spoiler Room. And we're continuing our Hot Van Damme month. And we are, yes, dedicating this episode as well to the one and only JCVC. We love you, little guy. And speaking of JCVC, we have, this is almost like an impromptu, like pseudo old school Astro Radio Z uncensored, because the movie we're talking about tonight would have fit in perfectly with that podcast. And who is in charge of that? Well, he has returned to the Spoiler Room from parts unknown. He's taking a break from his very busy schedule as none other than Mr. Derek Carey. He is back with us in the Spoiler Room. How you doing, Derek?
I'm wonderful, Mark. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here on the Spoiler Room podcast. I'm not so sure this was the correct movie to bring me on, or maybe it was the absolute best movie you could have ever brought me on. But I'm here regardless to talk about this thing that you made me watch.
This thing that exists called Desert Heat, a.k.a. Inferno. And there's a reason we'll talk about a little later on why the two different titles. But also with me, and folks, I just want to preface by this saying, I was going to record this last week and it was going to just be me. And then I watched this movie and I'm like, oh, I got to get these two people on my show if possible. And she is back with us in the Spoiler Room as well, direct from her tour around Sin City itself. Yes, it's the one and only Angelique. Hello, Angelique. How are you?
Hello, I'm fantastic.
So glad you came and are spending your recuperation time with Derek and I to talk about Desert Heat, aka Inferno. We're going to talk about many things, stars that crop up, as well as naked butts that show up. And since it's been a while, and Mario Dad is here. Yes, that's how he's titled. Mr. Derek Carey, please give us the synopsis of this interesting film.
Well, Desert Heat, folks know it's not a porno that we're talking about tonight. The movie's called Desert Heat, a.k.a. Inferno, is Rocky director John Avildsen's last film, where he decided to remake Yojimbo, but instead took too many cues from another remake of Yojimbo called Last Man Standing by having Jean Claude Van Damme be a down-on-his-luck drunk left to die in the desert after a group of asshole toughs shoot him and steal his 1949 Indian motorcycle. Danny Trejo, in one of a couple terribly racial miscasts in this movie, plays his native best bud Johnny, who saves JCVD and gives him a foot rub while a coyote watches. Then JCVD decides he's going to infiltrate the town where the toughs live, inhabited almost entirely by elderly people. Pat Morita playing a Chinese man with a British accent for some reason, two young women, and multiple gangs to take this mob down once and for all. Oh, and JCVD fucks a chick while answering the door for another chick.
Who also wants to fuck him.
Desert
with his boots on.
With his boots on.
While an old lady watches, who's a religious old lady who worships snakes with her old...
Yep.
Who's also a drunk.
Who's also a drunk. Everyone in this town does not. There's no water. This is a desert town. Not a lick of water in this fucking gimmick. Nothing but fucking tequila. Everyone just drinks straight tequila constant. Desert Heat.
It was one of those things. Like I said, I started watching this and I just had to okay, I need other people to talk about this film because I can't sit and just talk. It's one of those I knew very little about. I picked it because I saw the trailer on YouTube and I saw Jean Claude Van Damme in a cowboy hat, and I'm like, okay, there you go. That's all I needed.
I swore at one point, Mark, I had seen this movie. Like that cover, I remember that shitty cover for Desert Heat, where it's just this bad Photoshop of him on a motorcycle driving in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing that on the shelf forever. Turning it on for this podcast, I've never seen this movie. Never had seen this movie before.
Me neither. What about you, Angelique? Have you seen this movie before?
I watched it. I don't know if I saw anything.
Have you seen it before today?
No. No. And, like you said, I'm recovering from a week-long trip in Vegas, and I already didn't know where I was, and it made it a little worse. I mean, this is like the Howling 7 of Jean Claude Van Damme's catalog.
Yes, it is.
I actually said that while I was watching this. My girlfriend Amy was watching this with me, and I actually said, well, "Is this Jean Claude Van Damme's Howling New Moon Rising?"
Yes. That is precisely what it is.
It is in the same vein. What I love, because I hadn't seen it before, and this is one of those films where, no, folks, this isn't a good film by any means, but it's one of those you can't turn away, because as you watch it, you think you have it figured out, and then it just more people pop up that are familiar faces in roles you would not want to see them in, and it goes everywhere and nowhere, and suddenly Larry Drake shows up as a heavy.
Or what about the dude
Dr.
from
Giggle,
Taxi
the
that shows up as an
paramilitary.
Indian bar owner?
Oh God!
Yeah.
Oh,
We have both red face and brown face and
British
cowboy face.
British face. I'm like, see Paparita, which makes sense because the director directed Karate Kid, and so Paparita shows up in the cafe as one of the patrons in this town, and you're like, oh, it's Paparita, and he busts out this British accent, and you're like, what? I'm like, on one hand, it's like mad props for not falling into caricature, but at the other hand, I'm like, this is just surreal. And the old guy who shows up because Jean-Claude, after he gets his foot rubbed from a very young Danny Trejo. I mean, Angelique, was it surprised Danny Trejo shows up and he's like sans wrinkles?
It took me a minute to recognize him because he didn't have machete voice either. So I'm like, wait a minute, because I'm like, oh wow, okay, an actual, Native American actor. And nope, that's Danny Trejo. Holy moly!
But the thing is, we're sitting here talking about him like he's some baby face. He's 77 years old right now. This was only like 22 years ago, so he was still in his late 40s, early 50s.
I know. But I didn't recognize him at first, especially when we first see him, because Jean-Claude Van Damme's character, whose name is Eddie Lomax.
Is it Eddie or Andy? Because they call him like 3 different names.
They do call
Eddie.
him. It's Eddie.
It's
Eddie. This film opens as if you missed something, like 15 minutes of the movie, because it's like it busts in like you're supposed to know who he is, with the narration about the coyote, and he's in the desert and he's going to kill himself because he's an alcoholic, and then these guys show up and end up trying to kill him, and then Danny Trejo's character's there but then he does show up. It's like,
I thought he was a piece of his like an invisible friend. I didn't think he was real. I thought it was just like he was hallucinating and Danny Trejo was like a spirit guide. But then later in the movie, he's an actual real person giving Jean Claude Van Damme a foot rub, and I'm like, what? What?
And they're reminiscing about their days in Nam, I think, or in the war. They were over somewhere. I don't think they specified where. I don't know, but the film just opened. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There's this town in like Sweden or somewhere that is a replica of a real town, and it is essentially a real town, strictly for people with dementia and cognitive issues. I think this was the pilot program. I think this little town.
And the young people are
crazy people, and one lady who
and the young people are there to take care of their elderly. I get it. They're actually the caretakers of this town. Well, because Pat Morita's character goes on about his Betty and how he asks Eddie Lomax. He goes, "Oh, did my Betty send you? Because I'm a really good handyman." Okay, let's back up. There's a scene he arrives to town. He tracks down two guys who have his gun and are running a credit card scam on more old people, who only old people apparently show up. And it's apparently near an alien UFO, like Area 51 or something. I don't know. It's just something with UFOs, because these old people were there looking for UFOs, and they get scammed by these two sleazebags who are running this shop. And Lomax shows up, and he ends up killing them. He confronts them about they have his gun, because the guys who shot him took his gun, and so they have their gun on a mount that says, "You will take this gun when you pry it from my cold dead hands." Yeah. And Lomax
don't
dispatches these guys.
JCVD with a good time,
right? JCVD dispatches these guys fairly quickly and with no hesitation. Okay. And then they discover this old man in the back. What was it? His uncle? He was the two guys' uncle, and he needed his oxygen tank, and he's not fazed at all that these two dead bodies are in there. So then they send him over to the cafe for pie, because this lady's pie is classic. And he gets there, and Angelique, he meets the only woman close to his age, and what happens? The minute she sees JCVD, what happens?
Well, I mean, it's Sploosh City. I mean, that's the only water they've had in that town in years. I almost killed Mark. I'm sorry.
You're absolutely right.
She becomes a mess. I mean,
well, yeah, she literally is like rape, like having sex with him with her eyes, like completely, and he's just like. Of course, if you saw the gang members who were in the cafe earlier, you can understand, because we get a very blatant, very direct, not subtle commentary at all, as they mention about what her. They make a comment about her anatomy, and one of at least two direct penis comments in this film.
No woman, and mind you, there's only 3 in this entire movie.
3,
and one of the women is the elderly snake handler drunk that is the peeping Tom that we had talked about before. Both of the women in this town full of elderly people in the middle of the desert work at this this diner, and every last person that comes in says the most sexually crude shit to them nonstop.
Yeah.
Why they wouldn't have just left, I have no idea. There's no reason why they would feel that they were safe in this town of nothing but elderly people in gangs. Like, this place is lousy with multiple gangs. Why would you stay there? There's no reason, but they get treated like absolute dirt. Like the things that come out of these dudes' mouths is basically like, hey, what was that guy? There was that one guy who said something. Oh, I'd like to clean you down there, and he takes out in his tongue is like it rivals fucking Gene Simmons.
Yeah,
it's just crass shit like that, and it goes on the entire movie. Like, I don't get the angle of anything that happens at all in this movie, coming from the dude that directed The Karate Kid and Rocky. Like, where the fuck did this movie come from? Did he go through dementia? Was this the point in his career where his mind was going on him and he's just like, you know what? This is what reality is like? Because I think everyone was drinking that tequila while they were making this movie, because it makes not a lick of goddamn sense. Nothing in this movie makes a lick of goddamn sense.
No, it doesn't at all. Yeah, I think that was real tequila. It wasn't movie tequila like water. That was real alcohol. Everybody was Look, folks, you haven't lived. And now, again, we're not saying this is a good movie. This movie has so many things wrong with it. The vulgar direct commentary. In fact, at one point, one of the gang members tells the female gang member, you're going to have a tough time sucking my cock with a mouth with no teeth at some point. And I'm just like, okay, we're kind of crass and directly vulgar, but those are gang members. Pat Morita. Okay, folks. Mr. frickin' Miyagi. Angelique knows where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going too.
Mr.
Miyagi broke my heart.
Dressed in all white as a British gentleman.
He's dressed like Colonel Sanders.
He's freaking dressed like Colonel Sanders. Exactly. Thank you. I was trying to what is he? He's dressed like Colonel Sanders as JCVD drives away in the truck to enact his plan to get the gangs to fight each other. Pat Morita leans in to the other elderly gentleman and states, and I quote, "I bet he gets so much pussy."
Jesus,
Mr. Miyagi.
Joseph.
Mr. freaking Miyagi.
And can we say about the other gentleman, Mr. Miyagi's dressed like Colonel Sanders.
Yes.
And talking like uppity Charles from MASH. The dude he's talking to is wearing nothing but red long johns. Just a union suit. The whole movie he's been changed to a lazy boy for God knows how long. And I didn't see a portable commode next to that lazy boy.
Mm-mm.
All manner of bodily fluids have been spilled upon what is probably the crispiest fabric this side of the Mississippi. Just why? Why?
And the thing is, he and Pat Morita's character, what was his name? I forgot what name Pat Morita's character was, but
it was something.
Jubal Early was his.
That's his name in this movie.
Jubal Early is his name. Well, Danny Trejo's character was Johnny Six Toes.
Well, we knew that one, but I'm glad nobody ever said his name because I would have laughed the entire time. That's a terrible name to give him.
They say it very, very briefly. They
My name is Jubal Early.
I don't remember that. Maybe I was just too concentrated on that foot rub that Danny Trejo kept giving Jean Claude Van Damme. I couldn't get over it.
He was getting in between those toes, baby.
He was getting that foot rub good. I mean,
that coyote loved watching too.
He had that mint scented lotion. He
had the lube and everything. He got a good foot massage. Yeah, so we got Pat Morita saying that. We've got old Mr. Long Johns. Nobody's phased that Lomax took out these two guys who were related to Long John's guy.
They're happy about it.
Yeah, But here's what got me with that scene in the cafe at Mr. Jubal early. After they have eye sex with each other, the girl behind the counter and Reynolds, I forgot her, Rhonda Reynolds, I think her name is, Rhonda Reynolds is her name. After her and Lomax kind of have sex with their eyes, then Urley comes up and mentions he's a handyman. Okay, now when I think handyman, who's good at tasks, fixing pipes, fixing odds and ends, good electrician work, I don't equate with him with body disposal. But Johnny Lomax goes to Jubal and goes, "Oh hey, I could use your services." And the two go over to the other shop where he killed the two guys who are still there on the ground. And Jubal goes, well, these guys killed my dog, so I'm happy you killed them. And he kicks one of the bodies. And Lomax goes, "Can you take care of these?" He's like, "Yes, I can," with a lot of saran wrap. And he wraps these bodies in saran wrap. And he goes and dumps them in the
spot of
ravine.
bleach and...
As if this is not the first time he's done.
No, he's Dexter. Like, where does he come up with all this saran wrap?
I don't know.
Maybe he's in witness protection.
He could be.
That's why it's kind of like this is Howling New Moon Rising.
It
These
is.
are all just misfit people that wound up in the middle of the desert. They decided to build a town, and they all stay there. It's like Desperate Living, like John Waters' Desperate Living, where it's all the convicts that are staying in the middle of the desert.
I'm almost wondering if they are all ex-cons or current. It makes you wonder because people take death in here like it's like an everyday, like, okay, I'll take care of these for you, Mr. Lomax, no problem.
Right.
And everything's like that casual. But talk about racial casting. Okay, you couldn't have just had Danny Trejo, Johnny Sixtoes. You couldn't just have had him be Hispanic. He had to be Native American.
Yeah.
Why not just have him? It's like no one would quite. There was no reason for him to be Native American. But what's even worse is the heathens. Because you have two gangs, the Hogans and the Heathens. The Heathens are the ones that, some of them are the ones that tried to kill our Lomax character. He goes to their club, the club where they hang out. And after he confronts them and in this really awkward confrontation, he aces three of them in this wonderful move. What'd you think of this move, Angelique? The old... kick sideways and shoot the three guys. Like he like does this video game move.
Yeah, he did like a pas de bourrée and turned it into a barrel roll while shooting a revolver cowboy style.
Like he decided in midair he was just going to go plank sideways and drop hard onto the dirt. It was the most awkward fucking thing I've ever seen.
I mean, it got him behind cover, but it was the weirdest jump. And he takes out three of them, and then he's got the others because they're abusing these two young ladies who happen to just in the bar at the wrong place, wrong time. So he rescues them after... Folks, this is the guy who shot Rocky and Karate Kid. Before he decides to help the ladies, we get a camera shot at their waist and below waist level as he looks at their skirt, and the focus literally goes in and out, so you know what he's looking at, and he decides, okay, I will rescue you. And then out comes, and I love the actor, I love all the actors in here. This is what was frustrating. Vincent Schiavelli shows up, but he's not playing a character you're used to seeing. He comes out with the worst Hindu accent oh my god. Oh, guys, what'd you think of this? What?
It was offensive.
It was.
Yeah, extremely. Because I was like, wait, no. And then it just kept on, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Casting was just lazy in this movie. It was just absolutely lazy. It's like they had a stock group of people and they had to try and fit them into these roles and just didn't take the time to even remotely, and maybe the budget was super dirt cheap, but it doesn't matter. How hard is it to get somebody that's Hindi or get somebody that's native to do these, or get somebody that's British? Like,
or maybe don't make the character that particular race. You know, the club doesn't have to be called the Bombay whatever. You know, Pat Morita can speak English without a British accent.
You know, I couldn't even tell he was supposed to be British until halfway through the movie. I'm like, wait, is he trying to be British? What is going on?
Yeah. Well, and the thing about the casting is there was no need for any of these people to be anything but what those actors were.
Yep.
There was nothing in this script that specifically said that, you know, Vincent had to be Hindi for some reason. There was no reason for him have to be talking in that horrible accent. There was no reason for Pat Morita to try to be British or Trejo to try to be Native American. They could all have been their regular nation. Nothing in their nationality played at all into the very wafer thin plot that this film had.
Well, if we were going to say anything about that, Mark, I think Danny Trejo's character, I never understood. This whole movie has this like theme of Native American spirituality between JCVD and this coyote that gives him the focus and the direction to be able to, you know, enact his revenge, and gives him the power of the coyote and all this. So that was, for some reason, that half-assed, like, you know, native wisdom was permeated through this entire movie. So his character, there had to be a native character in this to just put this ridiculously stupid angle in this movie. But it didn't need to be Danny Trejo. That's just lazy.
Yeah.
That's just flat out lazy.
Yeah. And funny you should mention that. Go ahead, Angelique. What were you going to say?
Do these actors owe this director a big favor?
I think John Avildsen is just like, he must have been blind, or he was going through dementia, or he was drinking too much of that tequila while he was making this. He's like, oh yeah, that guy's native. Oh yeah, that guy's a Hindi.
So this will be a perfect. This is a perfect time to segue to this trivia that I looked up, and I love that the conversation went this way, because I don't know if you read the trivia on this, but it's very fitting for what we have just said in this first half hour, because originally the original cut of this film that John G. Avildsen initially intended for had more of an ambiguous and different tone with supernatural elements in it. Like in the original version of the scene where Eddie talks with Rhonda after Johnny dies, she tells him how that's impossible because he already died 10 years earlier. Danny Trejo said in one interview how originally his character was meant to be something like a guardian angel to Eddie, but that part of the story was some of the ones that were cut from the film. And why were they cut? Prepare yourself, folks. Jean Claude Van Damme didn't like Avildsen's version of the film, so he went and re-edited the film and cut it down to 95 minutes.
He did that with so many movies during the height of his career. He went in, I believe The Quest is another one of those movies of his where he went and took that. Well, he did, but he also kind of took over the edit, I believe. Like, that was supposed to be completely different as well. So that doesn't shock me in any way, shape, or form. And it would make more sense, because that's where I was confused most of this movie, because it plays out like Yojimbo does, you know, a man trying to get revenge for almost getting killed in a small town, and has to take on the mob that's taking over this town from the small people, and he gets his revenge on him. But that Danny Trejo character did not feel like he was real. Like, there were so many instances where that character felt more like a spiritual guide in this movie. But then there were moments where he was absolutely supposed to be real in this movie, and it just didn't make any sense. I was so confused by it. So that makes a lot of sense.
And since we're talking about, New Moon Rising, the original title of this movie, Coyote Moon.
Oh. That would have made a little more sense than either one of the titles. Just slightly.
Well, I mean, Desert Heat, it makes sense for that one scene where, Jean Claude Van Damme's porking those two chicks. I mean, that
one of whom was definitely underage. I'm sorry. She was not 18. She was not 18.
Yeah, because there's a scene, folks, where after he rescues these two blondes, after he decides that, oh yeah, they look good enough, because let's make no qualms about it, the camera angle and the way they shoot and introduce these characters, yeah, he decides they're pretty enough to save. It's implied. So he saves them, and they just decide to thank him. After they have this conversation in their own hotel room, where one is showering, but she has half the curtain. Angelique, when you take a shower, do you have half the curtain pulled aside so you can talk to your girlfriend?
Well, okay. I don't get to talk to anybody while I'm in the shower, except if one of the cats decides to kick down the door. But I sometimes do have the half curtain if I've got a movie on that I want to see a certain scene. I've half curtained it before, but not, for the whole
If someone
shower.
was in there with you, though, half curtain, would you have
Mark, we all know if the curtain is shut, it's kind of like a steel door has been shut and no sound can get out of the shower. You have to have the shower curtain open in order for any sound to get out.
In order for to have a proper conversation, you've got to have the half curtain.
You gotta have well, because these two just suffered a traumatic experience, were assaulted, obviously. Well, we caught the tail end of it, but they were assaulted and being mistreated by these heathens. So JCVD saves them, and they're busy talking now in the shower, half open so the camera can get the shot of the one lady completely naked. And she talks about whether or not he's circumcised.
I mean, you gotta know what's happening under those high-waist acid-wash jeans.
Okay, so this scene is the second best scene next to the Coyote JCVD, Danny Trejo foot rub. That we haven't even gone in depth, and I'm a little offended that we didn't really go on, because I mean, Danny Trejo pours tequila all over, needle nose pliers, and a coyote's howling in the background. And anyways, just a masterful scene that I hope
the
someone
coyote
has on
assists.
YouTube.
Yeah, the coyote assists in the bullet removal surgery.
but the scene where the girl comes over to repay Jean Claude Van Damme
to thank
for
him,
saving them. Is literally hands down the second best scene of the entire movie, because she walks in, she's only, he's only in a towel because he was also cleaning himself. She walks to the hotel room, she's only in a towel, and he lets her in. He's holding a gun, and she's like, well, I just want to say thank you, and takes off and drops her towel, and he is in a cowboy hat, has a gun, a 45, and he whips off the towel and drops it. Of course, you get the man buns.
You get them tight JCVD buns. Yeah. The
way it's put together is hilarious.
And he has his boots on the whole time.
Is this supposed to be a comedy? Like, I didn't understand. I never at any point understood the tone of this movie.
Don't try to choose the tone. I could never find a tone for this film. But Angelique, we do get to see JCVD's very tight rear end.
Yes, we do.
It wouldn't be a movie without it. Would it be a Jean
No.
Claude movie if his buns weren't hanging out?
No, it's kind of like the scene in American Psycho when they take out their business cards and it's the sound of a sword. Anytime he drops his pants, it's a samurai sword coming out.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Van Damme. We didn't know it was you.
I mean, you know, sometimes all a gal wants in a movie is to see a nice pair of buns. But that didn't even save this one.
But you're right, Derek. That scene is directed very comical. I mean, it's got such great comical beat to where there's just the pause and he just whips the towel off, and it's just like this intimate scene is just handled so comical. And then we have the drunk religious lady who is peeping Tom on them for whatever
the whole
reason.
time, who also for the whole movie has been questioning whether or not Jean Claude Van Damme is a rapist.
Yeah, she was questioning whether or not he was a rapist, and he, and then until he compliments her hair, and then she's like, and then there's
she's
some
got
more
the burning
water.
bush.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that whole scene, she's outside watching them do it. Short of her flicking the bean, she was into it.
Yeah, she's drinking more tequila. She's
What
watching
did she
them
say?
both.
The God works in mysterious ways or something like that.
Yeah. And then the other roommate shows up and she opens the door and she goes, "Oh, I didn't know you're busy." He's like, "It's okay, you're next." And she's like, "Oh, really?"
But Mark,
and
you forgot the best part. He's jackhammering her friend right then, standing upright. This isn't like he just he ends the sex session and walks over the door. No, he carries her as she's being jackhammered, and he somehow opens the door at the same time.
Well, he's Jean Claude Van Damme. He can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
He was Kumite-ing her.
And then he's like, "No, you're next." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And they close the door, and it's just like,
No. We need to see your ID, ma'am.
more like Kumale. Am I right? Oh, there we go. Kumale. And never mind the fact that the heathens, these aren't the brightest gang members in the West, because one guy claims he works for Hogan's, and they immediately like, "We're going to war," and they go after Larry Drake, Dr. Giggles, who just pops up. He just shows it's like he's this drug runner. It's like, oh, okay. And yeah, it plays like Jimbo. It is confusing. It is convoluted. It's just wild. And then it turns into this whole the town rebellion against the gang, and then he's a one-man army because he has both gangs after him. In the scene where they rig up a bunch of booby traps, and I don't even know what's going on in this third act.
It doesn't matter. None of it matters. There's a scene where Jean-Claude, once he figures out what's going on, and he decides to infiltrate the two gangs, and they're, warrior style meeting at some rundown place, and they're shooting each other up. And Danny, this is the scene that confused me, because then all of a sudden Danny Trejo is there helping him divert the attention away from the gangs that are attempting to kill Jean-Claude while Jean-Claude drives off. And the gangs physically handle Danny Trejo.
Yep.
And throw him off of like a 2-story drop with a noose, and somehow he doesn't snap his neck.
No, he doesn't.
This is where I got super confused about the Danny Trejo character, because it never made sense at all.
Well, no, because he's playing sniper during the conflict. The two gangs are fighting, and so Lomax figures he could take both gangs out while he's got them all in one place as they fight each other. And they're blowing up things. And then he gives the gun to Danny because he decides to go on the ground and fight people for whatever reason. And so Go ahead.
Why did Danny Trejo punch Jean Claude Van Damme? Or did I hallucinate that?
He punched him so he wouldn't be the one that would be on the zip line.
Okay.
Instead, Trejo's character, and like Derek said, this is where it's confused. And even if you go with the original cut of Trejo being some kind of guardian angel, he is manhandled by these guys. You know, was he like Clarence, where people can actually see him and touch him? And that he hops on the zip line, so Lomax doesn't, because he sacrifices himself. Which, if we go with the original cut and that he's more of the guardian angel, I can kind of see that angle. Okay. Because he doesn't care what happens to himself. But yeah, that's why he punched him. He punched him so he could go on the zip line. Then he gets captured by the heathens who do the whole noose neck thing. And I thought for a minute that maybe Lomax would do the old, good, bad, and the ugly thing where he shoots the rope,
Oh, yeah, as he's dropping.
As he dropped, could have shot the rope. I'm like, that would have made more sense. But instead, Trejo is sitting there, Six Toes is sitting there kind of flaring, and he drives in his motorcycle with plot armor, and he goes and he gets Trejo from the rope, and they drive off, but then he dies. Six Toes dies, but yeah, which is sad because, as Derek said, apparently he gave great foot massages.
Man, it looked great.
Waste.
Yeah, I would have loved one of those Danny Trejo foot massages. It looked like he really got in there.
That whole sequence was weird at the beginning of the film when he saves him. Like you said, he's got to needle those pliers that he pours tequila on and lights on fire because that's sanitary.
And he does some kind of chant.
He does some weird chant and pulls out the bullet. A coyote shows up. Just... Coyote shows up.
Thank God, Dr. Coyote, you're here.
You're playing right into my hand. I was hoping the entire podcast we'd just talk about Danny Trejo giving foot rubs. This is wonderful. I love
it. Coyote MD, Coyote Hauser MD, because he shows up, and Six Toes gives some kind of chant, which is. At that point, when I realized he's supposed to be Native American, because before that, I thought it was just Danny Trejo playing a Hispanic gentleman who had fought with, Lomax during the war or whatnot, until the coyote shows, and then he starts doing kind of a Native American thing, and you get the drums, all the cliche, awful tropes, and I'm like, oh, wait, he's supposed to be Native American?
Mark, let's be honest. Everything about this movie is just so thrown together. None of it is really given any weight. You just go through the motions because it's a remake of a remake of a remake. You already know the story. You know where this is going. The only thing that saves this movie is just how zany and stupid it gets. We were talking about the old dude in the red underwear that just walk around. He's the best character in this entire fucking movie. The movie, up until the point where we find that old timer chained to that fucking Burka lounger, is just a drag. It's like 30 minutes of this movie are an absolute fucking drag. And then he shows up and he's just a pissed off, ornery, cussing son of a bitch. And if it weren't for his character, this movie would have been insufferable to sit and watch. And as it goes along, the movie gets a little goofier and a little goofier, and that's the only thing that saves this movie, because none of the characters are given any weight. All of the toughs are just trash. They're just like redneck bush latte drinking trash. And they really are just like second rate toughs, and you don't feel any heat from any of them. And the movie ends in the way every Jean Claude Van Damme movie ends. Everybody watches Jean Claude Van Damme get beat up until one point he delivers a roundhouse kick to a motherfucker and wins. That's every single movie that Jean Claude Van Damme has ever been in has ended that way. So you're just waiting for that moment to happen in this thing. So I mean, if I were to say anything for anybody listening to this movie is fucking terrible. It's really fucking terrible, but I laughed a lot at it because it is just so stupid. It is. There's so many instances like us trying to have this conversation right now, Mark, feels like we're running in circles because it's hard to like pay attention to this thing. It's just so bland. Other than these little weird things that pop up that just are so inexplicable that they shouldn't have been in this movie.
And unintentionally hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this would be a whole Veronica situation. If we had a screening and Mr. Van Damme was there, we'd be in the audience howling and he would storm off because...
This is supposed to be an action film, though it's deemed as a comedy action drama. So it hit like 3 of the 5 genres. So comedy, action, drama. And it hits all 3 of those tones, sometimes in the same scene. Bill Irwin plays the Eli Hamilton character, and I will say, yeah, he really saves a number of scenes because he's just this ornery cuts about talking about bring my tank. It's like his oxygen tank.
He's fun.
He is so much fun. What's hilarious about the romantic person in this, Gabrielle Fitzpatrick playing Rhonda Reynolds, is she's barely in the film outside of the as Angelique. So very eloquently put it, the gushing scene.
Well, and Jamie Presley's also in this.
Barely in this.
Barely
in this. You know,
as the other woman, because as we had said before, there are 3 women in this entire town. It's the love interest, it's Jamie Presley, and the elderly lady flicking the bean outside of Jean Claude's window.
Which Jamie Presley's character Dottie, I couldn't understand her relationship with the character Vern, who was Kevin. I think they were related. I think that was like her brother or something.
Yeah,
I think it was.
I thought that was his old lady, like in the gang or whatever.
No, I don't think so.
See, and that was what was ambiguous too, because at first I thought, okay, they're boyfriend girlfriend. That's why she's not all hot for JCVD, because she's got Vern, who is like dime store riffraff.
Yeah. Agreed.
All I could think of was him in Biodome the whole time.
Played by Kevin West. And again, names left and right of people you recognize. You're like, wait, they're in this? Yeah, they have this weird relation. I think they're supposed to be sister brother. I think.
That's what I took. That
so.
First intro scene made it seem like that's what was going on.
Yeah. It's just, it is. It's one of those films that's just fascinatingly terrible, to where you're watching it going, I should not be entertained by this, but it's just so awful. You just can't shake your head and chuckle at stuff you're really not supposed to chuckle at. But you do. And there's action. And there's, I think on IMDb said there's a body count of like 15 and 12 of those are JCVD kills in this. What gets me about this final boss act, I'm like, he's been like super action hero guy this whole film, like blam, blam. He's been smart. He's been taking out bad guys left and right. Bad guy gets the drop on him, kind of. And suddenly the bad guy, and Derek, maybe this alludes to what you're talking about before with most of his movies. Suddenly the bad guy gets to drop out and he starts kicking Eddie Lomax's butt for whatever reason. When you're like, how is this guy winning this fight? There's no reason. I don't even know. I watched that scene twice. I don't even know how he got the drop on Eddie, because it looked like Eddie went to disarm him, but then he gets punched and knocked to the ground, and suddenly because he's the boss, suddenly his punches mean more than the other guys.
Super soldier serum. It had to be.
Yeah.
He was a winter soldier or the desert soldier.
The
only way it makes any sense. Because he's just your,
he's a schmuck character.
Bootlicking redneck bar townie dude. He's nothing special.
And they did no build up to that this guy's supposed to be special. He takes out Larry Drake's character, his dad, Ramsey Hogan, at a drop of the hat. And okay, he's evil, but there's nothing to build up that this guy could go toe to toe with Eddie Lomax at all, who up until that point had barely a scratch on him.
Nothing, Mark.
He had that
Nothing in
meth
this movie
strength.
makes a lick of sense.
It doesn't. And it is ridiculous. It makes very little sense. There's this thing with the bus driver, and they have this kind of subplot about the town drying up because of the interstate. Which then suddenly, after this whole thing with the gang disappearing, because we get a tabloid at the very end that the gang disappeared, and suddenly everybody's showing up because they think the gang disappeared because of UFOs, because that's what Eddie Lomax told the tabloid. This gang disappeared. And suddenly it's UFO Central again.
I mean, no
Collective
other
sigh.
ending. Yeah,
Yeah,
no
where's
other...
Glenn Bittner when you need him?
And then Dottie rides off with bus driver to go watch Yojimbo because wink wink, look, we're talking about Yojimbo. Though this whole time this movie is about, especially when he pits the gangs against one another, I'm just like, oh. Just like, oh, I see. Okay, I see where this is going. And then there's the jet thing. What the hell was with the jet thing?
It wanted a jet in the movie.
Where they shot this must have been near a U.S. military airfield because they kept getting buzzed by the jet.
They were hunting UFOs.
Apparently. The wonderful master, this is our hero scene where Jean Claude Van Damme's in his cowboy boots and cowboy hat, and the jet flies over him. Whoosh.
Maybe the secret to unlocking this is the little ramshackle town where all the UFO believers came during Independence Day. Right outside of Area 51. So it is literally just a town of planters mixed nuts.
Why anyone lives in this town at all? Because the thing is, there's no resource.
That one person down for like $1. Was it like a $1 bill he pulled out from behind the painting? Here you go.
There you go.
Then the one guy's like, "You're holding out on us. You gave us $5. I know you're holding out to us." So then they find in his pocket like $7. Oh,
Again, town is lousy with gangs and elderly people.
But there's cocaine.
It's got to be Area 51. This place has got to be Area 51. This is where all the aliens go.
These people are all actual aliens, is what it is. This is a sanctuary for aliens set up by the Men in Black.
Here come the Men in Black.
Galaxy Defenders. And they're the aliens getting shook down by the human gangs. That's what it's, I don't know what the budget was for this film either, but what I found hilarious is you have all these known names, a known name director, and there's this one scene later on after Danny Trejo gives a wonderful foot massage to Jean Claude Van Damme. Yes, we keep bringing it up because, folks, it's memorable.
It was sexy.
You wish it was your feet being massaged by Danny Trejo. Okay, that's how good he's doing. When I watch that scene, I'm like, oh, my feet are feeling good. Like, just through psychological suggestion, Danny massaging Jean Claude's feet. My feet were being massaged at that time. But there's a scene later on their deck where, Lomax is recovering. And Derek, you're a filmmaker.
Oh boy.
You've made films. The audio for this scene that they must have had one day to shoot, must have been Daddy's last day, windy as fuck. And you know how you know? That Mike was catching every wind gust there was.
Let's discuss how every single one of the stunt casts that were in this movie are literally in it for like 2-3 scenes. Like the dude from Darkman and what it was, Dr. Giggles.
Yeah,
literally they had him for an afternoon and a night.
Yeah,
it's just like this had to be extremely low budget. I mean, the most of the movie takes place in just like the desert. There was no location costs. These must have been a bunch of shacks that were just hanging out in the middle of nowhere. This movie is as dirt cheap as it comes. Having said that, still better than Halloween Kills.
Derek coming in with a hot take.
Derek coming
Not
in
a hot
with
take,
that.
True.
Coming in with
I haven't been brave enough to click play.
Coming in with that hot
Just
poker.
Just watch Desert Heat again.
Wow. Oh, Derek coming in with that hot poker. Wow. Okay. Let's play a game. Guess the budget. Guess the budget. Angelique, guess the budget estimated for this movie.
$5 million.
Derek?
I'm guessing it's got to be at least 15 to 20 million just for JCVD alone for his budget.
You cheated. 15 mil estimated was the budget for this movie.
Had to be. His fee had to be at least 10 million.
Well,
had to be at least like 8 to 10 million.
At this point in his career, this is kind of like Cannon. I mean, you could, if Cannon was still alive in 99, this would have been their film. This totally would have been a Cannon film. Yeah. Well, apparently, because his other 3 films flopped, Sony didn't even have any confidence in this movie in the way they released it.
Well, they had to only watch it in order to tell how good this movie was going to do. Just watch the goddamn thing. They see it one screening, they're like, "Oh fuck, bury this thing." Give it to was that Apex label that was putting out horse shit in the early 2000s. Give it a lenticular cover and just slap it into Hollywood video shelves.
Well, John Avildsen wanted his name removed from the film because of the tampering that JCVD did to it. But so this is how let me find it quick. Here's how they released this film, because the first version done by the Rocky director, people enjoyed. Apparently, it got good test screenings, and there apparently at one point at a festival, it got standing ovation for his cut before JCVD did his cut. And apparently there'll never be a director's cut because the guy passed away before, but apparently he did have a work print of his original cut, but it never got to fruition before he passed, unfortunately. Because
I'm going to look this up right now.
Because I would have been fascinated to see the work print of what his original cut was, you know.
It was a 2-hour long Danny Trejo foot massage.
Dude, I'd be up for that. I'd be up for that. If Danny Trejo's talking to the camera while he's foot massaging Jean Claude Van Damme's foot, I don't know, for some reason, I find that kind of zen. Like, you know, your hard day at work. I think I'll just make a GIF of that scene on loop.
Kind of like those holiday log with the flames thing. But it's Danny Trejo just giving a foot massage and bullshitting, you know?
I want that to be a GIF. Just him just grinding into that foot with the coyote in the background.
Yeah, the coyote has to come in every so often and just be like, oh.
10 hours of Danny Trejo foot massage and coyote. Apparently, so Sony Pictures picked up the U.S. rights to the film after its completion. They considered giving it a theatrical release through their TriStar Pictures arm, but after the failure of Double Team, Knockoff, and Universal Soldier Return, they ultimately sent the film straight to DVD. It It went right to DVD. They're like, yeah, no.
I can't question that decision at all.
No, I can't either, because it definitely plays as a late 90s, early aughts direct-to-DVD film. That's exactly what this plays as. 100%. But yeah, so I think we've talked about this film enough. I'm glad I picked it, in all honesty. I'm glad I watched it, because this is, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this is just one of those films where you're watching it like a train wreck. Like, you're just like, are these people really in this, doing this role in this film? And yes, they are. And that's what's so boggling about it for me. Angelique, what would you say the most boggling thing for you with this film?
That they thought in any way, shape, or form that it was a retelling of Yojimbo. I mean, it may be Yojimbo, but it ain't my Jimbo.
Hey-yo.
Hey-yo. Made The Last Man Standing look good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the loftiness of their goals, I guess. There's just a sheer audacity to put this out.
Audacity is... I'm impressed that Sony ever actually released this. I'm surprised it just didn't venture into shelf obscurity. You know, one of those where it eventually just leaked out to the internet because someone happened to find it, you know, in some vault somewhere. It just happened to leak. I'm surprised it didn't do that, because 99 internet was in swing. But this actually got a DVD release. So, Derek, your final thought with this. What would you say the most boggling thing with this film is for you?
That's a tough one, because there's just so much cockamamie bullshit in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's really... what the most boggling thing was, because maybe I wasn't paying attention to the opening credits at all, was when this movie ended and the first credit was directed by John Avildsen, and I was like, my jaw hit the floor. Because Rocky is one of my all-time favorite movies. I watch it at least once a year, and I absolutely adore that movie. When this ended and his name came up, I was like, you gotta be shitting me. This can't be the same guy. And it sure as fuck was. And, you know, per what you were trying to say about, you know, amazed that Sony would even release this thing. Remember, this was made in 1999. This was still when, you know, video stores were in full boom. And you could put out a movie like this. What you said, the budget was what, 15 mil?
Yeah.
15, 20 mil? You could probably make that back on the video rental scene. So I get why they didn't let this thing just languish. There was too many big names that they could exploit to try and get people, you know, hoodwinked into watching this cockamamie mess. It's a horrible, terrible piece of shit, but I gotta admit, we laughed a lot watching this movie. Even the worst Jean Claude Van Damme movie, I still have fun with to a certain extent. So it wasn't a complete waste of time like Halloween Kills was. So I will watch Desert Heat any day of the week. But just temper your expectations for this one. This is definitely lower tier Jean Claude Van Damme.
This is definitely lower tier Jean Claude Van Damme. I found entertainment in it. Again, jaw dropping, especially watching it in 2021. This film literally feels like it was the director flicking his nose and giving the finger to any political correctness ever that was in the 90s. And it released in 99, but everything about this, just someone's gonna find something offensive about it.
Oh, it was made during a time that they didn't care about such things. It was in vogue to be able to sit and talk to people like this in film, and nobody gave backlash to it. It's you know, it's there were things with movies and with art where there are specific times that this sort of thing was acceptable. So
Mhm.
to sit and look at it, we can look at it through the lens of 2021, but we can't really judge it
True.
based on that. It was made
Yeah.
at a different time. Just your choice now is to, if you're going to watch it in 2021, having that knowledge that this isn't the most PC thing you'll ever watch.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
It is definitely what it is. And if you want to see some of your favorite character actors in the most awkward of roles, this is the film for you. And there's some explosions and action sequences. So, so we'll wrap it up here. I thank you, Angelique. I thank you, Derek, for taking a venture with me with this. This was just a film I could not speak about by myself. I needed other people to share with, and I am glad you were brave enough to do this. And so now this is where I give you lovely people the floor and a license to shill. So ladies first, Angelique, what do you got to shill?
Well, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me at monstersmadnessandmagic.com. We've got a lot of stuff cooking over there. You can find me on Astro Radio Z. You can find me here. I'm all over the place. You're going to find me. I am.
Everywhere. Angelique is everywhere. You cannot escape the Angelique.
No, you can't.
And we wouldn't want to, Angelique. Thank you so
Aww.
much. Derek, the floor is yours, sir. You got anything you want to shill?
Not really. I mean, obviously, I run a podcast sort of half-assedly called Astro Radio Z, Astro Radio Z. It comes out once a month, and I've kind of moved away from doing a lot of this stuff. So, I mean, stay subscribed if you want to. New episodes are going to be coming out for a little while. I don't know. I'm kind of just living life and enjoying being a new dad and taking day by day. So
JCVC. Yes.
He was doing some roundhouse kicks earlier today.
Oh, I bet he was. Your kid is more adorable than any child has any right to be ever.
Yes, he's a cutie pie.
Oh my! If he stays that way, you're in trouble.
Oh my God! Let me tell you though, it gets him away with us literally not sleeping. It's been 6 months, almost 7 months of no sleep. I thought this was only supposed to last a couple months. This is some bullshit.
My power to you, sir. Don't worry. That first night where you get the full night's sleep is like heaven. I've been there. I've been through it twice. I feel you, brother. But it's awesome. Thank you so much for venturing out. I know you don't do this often. It's a very big honor to have both of you on here to talk about this really quirky film. So there you have it, folks. Yes, and Derek mentioned it. We will be talking about it this week as well. You got 2 episodes popping this week. We're going to be talking about The Quest as well. So stay tuned for that episode for our final Hot Van Damme month.
I'm glad I was on this episode instead of that one. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. I know you like me. I know you like me.
I do. That's why I asked you for this one. We've got a Force month next month. Prepare yourselves. Because not only do we do Delta Force, but we got a bunch of other interesting films with the word Force in the title, because I'm broken like that, and that's what you'll be getting. And actually, it was just an excuse so I could get finally someone to talk with me about Mega Force. So prepare yourself next month, folks, for that. I thank you, and I would just say a good night, everyone.
Good.